Bob.
Welcome back to Football Daily, where today we are looking at 10 footballers who actually killed people. Marcos Alonso. First up is Chelsea wingback Marcos.
Oh my god, what did you just...
Now flying high with the Blues, the Spaniard was arrested back in 2011 while playing at Bolton Wanderers after a car accident in Madrid. Alonso was drunk and driving his BMW at over 100 kilometers per hour when he collided with a wall, killing one of his passengers, a 19-year-old woman. Originally facing 4 years in prison, Alonso had his sentence reduced to 21 months, and eventually jail time was dropped altogether when the defender paid the family of the victim €500,000. His licence was taken away for under 4 years, but he was allowed to continue playing for Bolton during the case, drawing criticism from anti-drink driving groups. And that's understandable, given that the fullback will never spend a single day behind bars. Captain Philip F. Fullard. Born in 1897, Philip Fletcher Fullard was an outstanding sportsman as a teenager, reportedly turning out for Norwich City while at school. But when war broke out in 1914, Fullard turned his talents to the service of his country, joining the Royal Air Force at just 18. He turned out to be an exceptional pilot, shooting down 40 German planes in the space of just 5 months, and ending the war with the 6th highest total among the entire British ranks. Along with a friend, he once shot down 7 aircraft before breakfast, and was awarded the Military Cross for gallantry twice. However, Fullard's love of football saw his war end early, when he suffered a compound fracture during a football match between his squadron and another infantry unit. He eventually returned to active service and also fought in the Second World War, before retiring in 1946. He died at the ripe old age of 86. Patrick Kluivert. The Amsterdam native won the Champions League with Ajax and league titles in the Netherlands and Spain. But in 1995, when he was just 19, he killed a father of 2 in a car crash. Kluivert's uninsured BMW hit another car while it was performing a U-turn, killing 56-year-old Martin Putman and injuring Putman's wife, Hanny. To add a sick twist to the tragedy, Putman was a huge Ajax fan, and Kluivert was the club's brightest young star. Kluivert was somehow only given community service, despite the fact he had been speeding and was reckless. Away supporters chanted "murderer" at the forward for the rest of his time at Ajax, and he left a year later for AC Milan. Lee Hughes. A West Brom trainee, Lee Hughes almost didn't make it as a professional, working as a roofer with his dad when he was cut from the Baggies Academy. However, the Englishman earned a contract at Kidderminster and later returned to the Hawthorns, making more than 200 appearances for the Baggies. At 27, Hughes was hit with a 6-year prison sentence after he swerved his Mercedes onto the wrong side of the road and hit a Renault. 2 of the passengers were injured and another died on impact. To make matters worse, Hughes fled the scene and only reported to police the next day. According to the prosecution, this was to avoid a breathalyzer test. He ended up spending 3 years behind bars, and in 2011 was charged with sexual assault, which was later changed to common assault. What a lovely guy. Bob Newton. English forward Bob Newton is pretty much a case study in not learning from your mistakes. While playing at Hartlepool in the 1970s, Newton caused his first car crash, in which one of his teammates, 21-year-old David Wiggett, was fatally injured. Newton was subsequently jailed for 9 months. After his release, Newton went off to play in North America, enjoying a stint with the incredibly named Jacksonville T-Men. But by the mid-1980s, his old habits had resurfaced, and he had his license suspended for 5 years after being found guilty of reckless driving. Astoundingly, Newton got a job as a lorry driver after his retirement, and once again found himself in court in 2007. This time, he was stopped with a blood alcohol level almost double the legal limit. With that record Newton might well be the dumbest man in football history. Mohamed Mujic. Little known among modern football fans, Mohamed Mujic was a star with the Yugoslavian national team in the 1950s and 60s, picking up an Olympic silver medal and representing his country at the 1962 World Cup, where they reached the semi-final. However, Mujic was only to feature in the first game of the tournament, when Yugoslavia took on the Soviet Union. In a bad-tempered contest, Mujic went in hard on Soviet defender Eduard Dubinsky, breaking the fullback's leg. Amazingly, the ref waved play on, but the Yugoslavian FA were appalled and sent Mujic home in disgrace. But that was far from the end of it. Dubinsky's injury was so severe that 7 years later he developed a cancerous tumour in the scar tissue where the fracture had occurred. He eventually died from the disease at the age of just 34, making Mujic's tackle arguably the worst in football history. Diego Buonanotte. Joining our roster of reckless drivers is Argentinian attacker Diego Buonanotte, who came through the River Plate Academy and was given his debut to the club by the legendary Daniel Passarella. He went on to win an Olympic gold medal with the Albi Celeste in 2008.
Why did he do that, man?
Most promising teenagers. But at just 21, Buonanotte lost control of his car while driving on the motorway. He swerved off the road and collided with a tree, knocking himself unconscious and killing the 3 friends who were in the car with him. Amazingly, Buonanotte was back on the pitch 4 months later, and despite calls for him to be prosecuted for manslaughter, he went on to play in Chile, Greece, Mexico and Spain. Luke McCormick. Plymouth goalkeeper Luke McCormick was heading home from a teammate's wedding in 2008. He was drunk, uninsured and tired when his Range Rover collided with a car containing Phil Peake and his 2 sons Aaron and Ben, who were aged 10 and 8. McCormick had been drinking heavily, had had nearly twice the legal limit of alcohol in his bloodstream, when he decided to drive home to see his girlfriend. In the crash, the 2 little boys were killed instantly. Their father suffered fractures to his neck, and McCormick was heard telling witnesses, "I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I just fell asleep, I'm so sorry." McCormick pleaded guilty to causing death by dangerous driving, and was given a 7-year prison sentence. He served around half of it before his release in 2012. Bruno Fernandes de Souza, now playing once again after nearly 7 years in prison. Brazilian goalkeeper Bruno is a genuine monster. The stopper made his name with Flamengo and was linked with Milan and Barcelona, but was arrested in 2010 after his mistress and mother of his child, Elisa Samudio, disappeared. Eventually, the keeper's teenage cousin cracked and revealed to the police that he and Bruno had kidnapped Samudio, tortured her, killed her, and then disposed of the body. Supposedly, the poor woman's corpse was chopped up, with some pieces fed to dogs and others buried. Bruno was sentenced to 22 years in jail, but he had served only 6.5 of those when his lawyers filed an appeal, allowing the player to leave custody while his case was prepared for retrial. Still just 32, Bruno was immediately snapped up by 2nd Division side Boa Esporte, because apparently you can be a murdering arsehole so long as you're a commanding presence in the penalty area. Alexander Villaplane. Lastly, we have Alexander Villaplane, perhaps the worst individual ever to appear on a Football Daily 10. Born in Algeria, the Frenchman captained his country at the 1930 World Cup and starred in the inaugural Ligue 1 season in 1932. After a brief stint in prison for fixing horse races, Villaplane became a thief, and when the Nazis invaded France, he saw an opportunity to go up in the world, informing on the French resistance in exchange for the SS turning a blind eye to his crimes. Eventually, Villaplane was put in charge of the so-called North African Brigade, a group of Nazi collaborators. turned out to be a natural when it came to murder and cruelty, claiming he would spare people if they paid him and taking part in firing squads for fun. Survivors of his massacres claims that he seemed to enjoy killing people, and his unit once murdered 50 people in a single day. Thankfully, this disgusting individual was executed when Paris was liberated from the Nazis in 1944.
So we hope you enjoyed that. If you want to check out more of our videos, then